I mean, the Chargers' meltdown in the second half was something of a shock. That being said, I did lean Houston in that game, and I wasn't surprised to see the Texans play better than we thought they were. The Texans-Chiefs game become very, very interesting. And you note in that game, there are 9s out there for Kansas City. There are also 8s. The 9s are specifically for teaser protection.
Yes.
So that's why they're out there. The 9 and an 8. When it comes to key numbers, neither one of them is particularly key. And the books that take a lot of teaser action will often post a 9 on a game that other books have 8. So you can't tease it down below a field goal. They know Kansas City is going to be very popular when it comes to teasers. But the Texans certainly gave the Chiefs a battle when these teams met a couple of weeks ago. Baltimore, Pittsburgh, I was only surprised that the Ravens didn't win by more. Baltimore controlled the game that I thought the way that I expected that they would. But with all these games, of course, with a run of unders this weekend, lots of long, slow, methodical drives. We saw Buffalo do that. We saw Baltimore do that. Those are the offenses, the elite offenses. They're not worried about big plays. They're worried about grinding out first downs, which if you're playing overs this weekend, probably didn't do real well for your bankroll. But I don't know, where do we want to go? Washington's win over Tampa yesterday. I mean, that was a what do we say about that game, Prez? I mean, it was red zone in execution for both teams, Tampa making the crucial mistake. And in so many of these games, when we talk about Green Bay's special teams meltdowns or the bad turnover that Baker Mayfield had deep in his own territory. And those times, so many of these games are going to be decided on a mistake as opposed to someone doing something right. The team that made the fewest errors in every game ended up victorious.
Let's have a quick rundown now of some early thoughts moving forward. Kansas City -7.5, 8, a couple of 9s, total of 42. Detroit -8.5, some 9s, a total of 55.5. And Buffalo and Baltimore, pick 'em, a 1 out there for Buffalo in a few places, and a total of 51.5. Anything jump out to you?
So my initial lean, I'm going to look at Houston plus the points in Kansas City. I don't know that I'm going to get there, but my initial lean is this Texans team has potential moving forward. We do want to look at injury report, and I want to see the opposite. I mean, much of Houston's win over LA and all of these wins was the Chargers stinking. I mean, the Chargers had issues down the backstretch of the season. They only one pass catcher that could make plays in McConkey. McConkey made plays all day, but he was the only one for LA. Their offensive line wasn't good. Houston was able to blow that up. That's not going to be a matchup edge against Kansas City. And yet those two teams just played. It wasn't an early season matchup. That was a Week 16 matchup. It was a meaningful game for both teams, and Houston was competitive in that contest. Although the Chiefs, certainly from a situational standpoint off the bye, they've gotten healthier since then. They won that first meeting by 8. I don't know. I'm going to think about that, but I am leaning. My initial lean, the money. We've seen a little bit of under money coming in that ball game as well, Lawrence. When it comes to Detroit, Washington, a little bit of money for the Lions at the sharper books at the open. They're 8.5. Now I'm seeing more 9s in this ball game. 55.5, the prevailing total, and obviously off a weekend in which basically nothing went over the total, with the exception of that Houston game that got there late. And that only got there because of the blocked extra point that was returned for 2 points the other way. Total closed 42, landed 44. That was what cashed that over. It wasn't anything on offense. It was a big special teams play that created 3 points instead of 1 that created that. Nonetheless, there was Tampa, Washington. I leaned over in that ballgame. I gave it as a free play on Bet on It, and that didn't get there. When we're talking about Detroit and Washington, these are two teams that both are going to – it's not about big plays. It's about grind. 55, 55.5, 56 seems a little bit high for this better. And Baltimore, Buffalo, next Sunday night, that's going to be a heck of a game. That's a war. The winner of that game immediately becomes the favorite to come out of the AFC, despite the fact they have to go to Kansas City, in theory, or they'll get a home game against Houston. Nonetheless, the Buffalo-Baltimore winner is going to attract a lot of betting market attention moving forward. If you want to play that game, an alternative way to look at it might well be whichever team you think is going to win that game, play on them to win the AFC and or play on them to win the Super Bowl. I think you might get the best of the number now in that scenario, even though I don't believe in those type of future book wagers. Again, as I talked about last week, if you play Buffalo or Baltimore, money line, roll it over every week, you'll probably make more than you will on the Super Bowl future line. So that's the better way to do it.